The Galactic Military Council chamber was alive with echoes of laughter. Representatives from over 100 star systems had gathered. There forms a tapestry of galactic diversity, scaled Vraxans with twitching tails, shimmering Offrians glowing faintly, and hulking Bracthurians whose every step reverberated through the chamber. In the center of it all, a holographic projection displayed a human soldier wielding what appeared to be an archaic rifle. "This is their weapon?" General Callus of the Bracthurian Dominion bellowed, his deep voice rumbling through the hall. His broad, chitinous shoulders quaked with laughter. "Primitive combustion-powered projectiles? How quaint." The Offrian representative, radiant in her bioluminescent robes, joined in. "Surely they're joking. Sniper rifle is their elite weapon? My children play with more advanced devices in their creches." The laughter intensified as other representatives chimed in, mocking the humans for their apparent backwardness. But not all voices joined the chorus. Captain Thalva, an Andrelian officer known for her analytical mind, frowned as she studied the hologram. Her keen eyes, capable of detecting details imperceptible to most species, noted something the others had missed. "General Callus," she interjected, her melodic voice cutting through the cacophony. "Have we considered why humans continue to use such primitive technology despite their access to galactic standard weapons? They've already integrated our shields, starship designs, and energy systems. This choice might be deliberate." The room fell silent for a moment before Callus dismissed her concern with a wave of his clawed hand. "Deliberate? Perhaps they're simply too primitive to innovate. Let us not waste our time speculating. The humans are no match for the might of the Dominion." Thalva's frown deepened, but she said nothing more. She made a mental note to investigate further, an instinct that had served her well in countless battles. Something about humanity didn't sit right with her, and she intended to find out why. #Earth's Last Stand. On the far side of the galaxy, a war council convened deep beneath the Earth's surface. The room was Spartan but efficient, its walls lined with monitors displaying tactical readouts, star maps, and live feeds from the front lines. General Rebecca Hayes, commander of Earth's planetary defense forces, stood at the head of the table. Her voice carried the weight of resolve. "They think we're weak," she said, addressing the officers gathered around her. "They've dismissed our weapons, our tactics, and our resolve. That arrogance is our greatest advantage." Colonel Alan Drake, a seasoned sniper with a grizzled appearance and a reputation for precision, leaned forward. "Let them laugh. They don't understand what our primitive weapons can do in the hands of someone who knows how to use them." Hayes nodded. "Exactly. They see a sniper rifle and think it's obsolete. They don't understand that it's not about the weapon, it's about the operator. And we have the best." Drake smirked, his fingers brushing the worn grip of his custom rifle. The weapon was a masterpiece of human engineering, mechanical precision combined with cutting-edge materials. It required no energy cells, no reliance on alien technology. It was simple, reliable, and, in the right hands, lethal. "They've never fought a war like this," Hayes continued. "The Dominion is used to overwhelming their enemies with superior firepower. But they're not prepared for asymmetrical warfare. They're not prepared for us." The room filled with murmurs of agreement. The human forces knew they were outnumbered and outgunned. But they also knew something the Dominion didn't: the terrain of Earth, the ingenuity of its people, and the power of determination. #The Hunter's Advantage. The first skirmishes began in the dense forests of North America. Dominion troops, clad in their gleaming armor and armed with plasma rifles, advanced in tight formations. Their scanners swept the area, searching for any sign of resistance. They found none at first. Then a single shot rang out. It wasn't the whine of a plasma bolt or the hum of an energy weapon. It was a sharp, percussive crack that echoed through the trees. A Bracthurian soldier at the front of the formation stumbled and fell, a small, jagged hole punched through his armor. His comrades froze, their eyes scanning the foliage. "What was that?" one of them growled, his voice tinged with unease. "Primitive weaponry," another replied. "They're rifles." "But how?" The sentence was cut short by another shot. This time the squad leader fell. Panic began to spread as the Dominion soldiers realized they couldn't pinpoint the source of the attacks. Their advanced scanners, designed to detect energy signatures and heat, were useless against the cold, inert metal of human bullets. High above the battlefield, concealed in a camouflaged position, Colonel Drake adjusted his scope. His target was nearly a kilometer away, but distance was irrelevant to him. He exhaled slowly, his heartbeat steady, and squeezed the trigger. Another Dominion soldier fell. Fear sets in. By the end of the day, the Dominion had suffered significant losses, far more than they had anticipated. Reports flooded into their command center, each one more troubling than the last. "They're ghosts," one officer reported, his voice trembling. "We can't see them, can't track them. They're picking us off one by one." General Callis slammed his fist onto the table, cracking the surface. "Ghosts? They're just humans. Use the scanners, the drones, anything." "We've tried," the officer replied. "Their weapons don't emit energy signatures. And they're snipers, they're beyond anything we've encountered. It's as if they can see through walls, predict our movements." Callis growled in frustration. He had underestimated the humans and now his forces were paying the price. He turned to Thalva, who had been quietly analyzing the reports. "You seem so concerned about their tactics. Do you have a solution?" Thalva met his gaze, her expression unreadable. "The solution is simple, General. Stop underestimating them. They're not fighting like other species because they're not like other species. Humans are adapting to us faster than we're adapting to them." Callis scoffed but said nothing. For the first time, doubt crept into his mind. The humans were proving to be more than a nuisance, they were becoming a threat. As night fell on the battlefield, Drake and his team prepared for another operation. The Dominion's arrogance had cost them dearly, and humanity was determined to exploit that weakness. They knew the war was far from over, but for now they held the advantage. And in the silent, deadly shadows of Earth's forests, humanity's snipers waited, their crosshairs trained on the invaders who had dared to mock them. The Dominion's forces regrouped at their forward operating base, an imposing fortress of gleaming black alloys and spiked defenses. It stood in stark contrast to the surrounding wilderness of Earth, a vibrant, untamed expanse of dense forests and jagged mountains. General Callis paced within the command center, his claws clinking against the metal floor as he barked orders to his subordinates. "Deploy the recon drones. I want every inch of this cursed forest scanned. These humans are nothing but vermin hiding in the dirt. We will flush them out." His orders were swiftly carried out. Hundreds of spherical drones, each no larger than a human head, spread out from the base like a swarm of metallic hornets. Equipped with advanced thermal sensors, they were designed to detect any living creature in their radius. From the Dominion's perspective, the humans' reliance on primitive weaponry and tactics had to have a flaw, and Callis intended to find it. But deep in the forest, Colonel Alan Drake and his team watched the skies with practiced calm. The drones buzzed overhead, their faint hum blending into the sounds of the wilderness. Drake, lying prone beneath a camouflage net, peered through his binoculars, his sharp eyes following the movements of the alien machines. "Drones are out," whispered Sergeant Elena Park, his second in command. Her voice was low but steady, a testament to her training. "Thermals will light us up like a bonfire if we don't move." Drake nodded, his lips curling into a faint smirk. "Let them look. We'll give them something to find." He gestured toward Private Davis, a young engineer with a knack for improvisation. Davis grinned as he activated a small device, a crude but effective thermal decoy. Within moments, the device emitted a heat signature that mimicked a group of human soldiers. The drones immediately picked it up, swarming toward the false readings like moths to a flame. "Move," Drake ordered, and his team slipped away, leaving the decoys to distract the enemy. The sniper's playground. As the Dominion's forces converged on the decoy, Drake and his team took up positions on a rocky ridge overlooking the valley. The terrain was rugged, providing ample cover and clear sight lines. For a sniper like Drake, it was the perfect hunting ground. Through his scope, Drake surveyed the Dominion soldiers. They moved in disciplined formations, their sleek armor reflecting the pale light of Earth's moon. Plasma rifles hummed faintly in their hands, and their helmets glowed with the soft light of heads-up displays. Despite their technological superiority, they were vulnerable, targets in a game they didn't yet understand. Drake exhaled slowly, his finger brushing the trigger of his rifle. He had chosen this spot for a reason. It was a choke point. The Dominion soldiers, funneled into the narrow valley below, were exposed. Their advanced scanners might have been able to detect the decoys, but against Drake's team, their technology was useless. The first shot rang out sharp and precise. A Dominion soldier collapsed, a single bullet piercing the weak joint between his helmet and chest plate. The others froze, their heads swiveling as they tried to locate the shooter. "Take the stragglers," Drake whispered over the comms. Sergeant Park and Private Davis opened fire, their suppressed rifles picking off targets with deadly accuracy. The Dominion soldiers returned fire, their plasma bolts scorching the rocks and trees, but their shots were wild, unfocused. They had no idea where the humans were. Targets down, Park reported, her tone cool and professional. Moving to secondary position. Drake nodded, already on the move. He and his team operated like ghosts, never staying in one place for long. By the time the Dominion reinforcements arrived, the humans were gone, leaving behind only the bodies of their fallen comrades. The psychology of fear. Back at the Dominion base, the reports were grim. Another patrol had been wiped out, their advanced technology rendered useless by the humans' unconventional tactics. General Callis was livid, his frustration boiling over as he slammed his fist onto the holographic display. "These humans fight like cowards," he roared. "They hide in the shadows, striking from a distance. This is not warfare, it is savagery." Captain Thalva, ever the voice of reason, spoke up. "General, their tactics are effective precisely because they exploit our weaknesses. They know they cannot match us in direct combat, so they've turned this war into one of attrition. And they are winning?" Callis glared at her, his mandibles clicking in irritation. "You suggest we adapt to their methods? We are the Dominion. We do not lower ourselves to the level of barbarians." Thalva met his gaze, unflinching. "With all due respect, General, we are already losing. The humans are not barbarians, they are strategists. Every move they make is calculated to sow fear and confusion. If we continue to underestimate them, this war will end in disaster." Callis growled but said nothing. He knew she was right, though his pride would never allow him to admit it. Instead, he turned his attention to the holographic map, where a new plan began to take shape. "Deploy the Flame Legion," he ordered. "Burn the forest if we must. These humans cannot hide if there is nothing left to hide in." The burning forest. As dawn broke over the battlefield, Drake and his team watched in horror as the forest below erupted into flames. The Dominion had unleashed their Flame Legion, a specialized unit equipped with incendiary weapons designed to scorch the earth. Trees crackled and splintered as fire consumed them, sending plumes of black smoke into the sky. "They're torching the entire valley," Park said, her voice filled with anger. "They'll destroy everything." Drake's jaw tightened. He had seen this kind of tactic before: scorched earth, a last-ditch effort to deny the enemy any advantage. It was brutal, indiscriminate, and entirely in character for the Dominion. "We can't let them get away with this," he said, his tone steely. "Davis, set up the signal jammer. Park with me. We're taking the fight to them." As the flames spread, Drake and his team prepared for their most dangerous mission yet. The Dominion thought they could win by destroying the battlefield itself, but they had underestimated one crucial factor: the resilience of the human spirit. Drake's sniper rifle, once mocked as primitive, would soon become the weapon that turned the tide. In the face of overwhelming firepower, humanity's ingenuity and determination would prove to be its greatest strengths. The forest had become a hellscape. The crackling roar of the fire drowned out nearly every other sound, and the air was thick with ash and smoke. Yet, within the chaos, Drake's team moved with quiet determination, their faces covered with makeshift respirators to block out the worst of the choking fumes. "Signal jammers live," Private Davis reported over the comms. "They won't be calling for reinforcements anytime soon." Drake adjusted his scope, peering through the dense haze. The Dominion's Flame Legion was advancing methodically, their flamethrowers creating walls of fire as they pressed forward. Their armor gleamed in the fiery light, each step precise and deliberate. These weren't the scattered patrols Drake's team had dealt with before. The Flame Legion was a heavy assault unit, elite, disciplined, and relentless. "They're moving in a line formation," Park observed, crouching beside Drake. "If we take out their lead units, we might be able to break their cohesion." Drake nodded, his mind already working through the angles. "Davis, focus on the rear units. Keep them distracted. Park, you're with me. We'll target the heavies at the front." The plan was simple but effective. As Davis set up his position, Drake and Park moved into the higher ground, finding cover among the charred remains of fallen trees. The heat was oppressive and sweat dripped down their faces, but they stayed focused. Every shot had to count. The first cracks. Drake steadied his rifle, exhaling slowly as he lined up his first shot. The Flame Legion's lead soldier came into view, his flamethrower slung across his back as he barked orders to his subordinates. Drake pulled the trigger. The bullet struck the alien square in the visor, shattering the reinforced glass and sending him crumpling to the ground. The effect was immediate. The formation hesitated, the soldiers turning toward their fallen leader. "Headshot," Drake muttered, already lining up his next target. Park opened fire, her suppressed rifle taking down another soldier. Davis joined in from his position, his shots picking off the soldiers at the rear. The Flame Legion, so confident in their firepower and armor, began to falter. Their ranks broke as they scrambled for cover, plasma fire erupting wildly in all directions. But even as the Dominion soldiers panicked, the fire continued to spread. Drake could feel the heat growing more intense, the flames creeping closer with each passing second. He activated his comms, his voice calm but firm. "Keep moving. Don't let them pin us down." The team shifted positions, staying one step ahead of the flames and the Dominion's counterattack. The smoke made visibility nearly impossible, but it worked both ways. The Flame Legion's advanced sensors struggled to adapt to the chaotic environment, while Drake's team relied on instinct and training. A desperate push. The battle escalated as the Dominion soldiers regrouped, their commanders barking orders over the cacophony. Flamethrowers roared to life, sending jets of fire toward the humans' last known positions. Trees exploded into ash and the ground itself seemed to burn, but Drake's team refused to give in. "They're trying to box us in," Park warned, firing another shot before ducking behind a boulder. "If we don't move now, we'll be trapped." Drake surveyed the battlefield, his sharp eyes picking out a narrow path through the chaos. It was risky, an open stretch of ground with little cover, but it was their only chance. "Follow me," he ordered. "Stay low and keep moving." The team sprinted through the flames, dodging plasma bolts and leaping over burning debris. Davis stumbled, his leg catching on a jagged root, but Park was there in an instant, pulling him to his feet. They pushed forward, their breaths ragged but determined. Ahead of them, the Dominion's command unit came into view. A towering alien stood at the center, clad in ornate armor that gleamed even through the smoke. General Callis himself had joined the fight, his flamethrower igniting in a brilliant arc of blue fire. "Target spotted," Drake said, his voice cold and precise. "Taking the shot." He dropped to one knee, steadying his rifle as he aimed for Callis. The general moved with surprising agility, his armor deflecting stray bullets as he barked orders to his troops. Drake waited, his finger hovering over the trigger. Patience was key. He had to find the perfect moment. The turning point. The shot rang out, cutting through the noise like a thunderclap. Callis staggered, the bullet striking the joint between his shoulder and chest plate. He roared in pain, his flamethrower clattering to the ground as he clutched his wound. "Direct hit," Drake confirmed, already moving to a new position. "Let's finish this." The Flame Legion, seeing their leader injured, faltered once more. Park and Davis pressed the advantage, their rifles mowing down the disoriented soldiers. The humans fought like wolves, quick, coordinated, and relentless. Every shot was a statement, every movement a defiance of the odds. As the battle raged on, the flames began to die down. The forest, though scarred, had survived. The same could not be said for the Dominion forces. Bodies lay scattered across the battlefield, their once imposing armor now little more than charred remnants. Drake approached Callis, his rifle trained on the alien general. Callis glared up at him, his mandibles clicking in defiance despite the pain. "You are monsters," Callis hissed. "No honor, no glory. Only death." Drake's expression was unreadable as he lowered his rifle. "We fight to survive. If you want honor and glory, go write a poem." He turned away, signaling his team to move out. The battle was over, but the war was far from won. Still, for the first time, the Dominion had been dealt a decisive blow. They had underestimated humanity and it had cost them dearly. In the ashes of the battlefield, the message was clear. Earth would not fall without a fight. The battlefield was eerily silent, the fires having burned themselves out to leave smoldering embers and scorched earth. The air was thick with the stench of charred metal and flesh. As Drake's team regrouped, the weight of their victory began to settle on their shoulders. It wasn't the triumphant feeling one might expect, it was something heavier, more sobering. Drake crouched near the remnants of the Dominion general, Callis. The once imposing alien lay crumpled in the dirt, his ornate armor cracked and scorched. His eyes, dull now but still defiant, stared lifelessly at the sky. In the end, even the Flame Legion's most feared warrior had proven vulnerable. "Is he dead?" Davis asked, limping up to Drake. His voice was hoarse from the smoke and his left arm hung at an odd angle. Drake nodded. "Dead enough." Park joined them, her rifle slung over her back. Her face was streaked with soot, and her movements were slower than usual, but she was still standing. "We should move. The Dominion might not be able to call reinforcements, but they'll notice when their Flame Legion doesn't report back." Drake stood, taking a deep breath. "We're not leaving just yet. We need to send a message. The final warning." The team worked quickly, salvaging what they could from the battlefield. They gathered Dominion armor, weapons, and insignias, arranging them into a grim tableau at the center of the clearing. Callus's broken body was propped up against a jagged rock, his flame-emblazoned pauldron displayed prominently. "This feels excessive," Davis muttered as he helped Park drape a Dominion banner over the general's chest. "It's not for them," Drake replied, his tone cold. "It's for us." Park glanced at him, confused. "What do you mean?" Drake finished arranging the last piece of the display, a Dominion helmet, cracked in half, placed at Callus's feet. He stepped back, surveying their work with a grim satisfaction. "This isn't just about scaring the Dominion," he explained. "It's about reminding ourselves what we're capable of. They called us monsters. Maybe they're right. But if that's what it takes to survive, then so be it." The others didn't respond, but their silence spoke volumes. They understood. Humanity hadn't asked for this war, but now that it was here, they would fight it on their terms. No hesitation. No mercy. A new kind of reckoning. As the team made their way back to the extraction point, the weight of what they'd done lingered. Every Dominion soldier they'd killed, every shot they'd fired, it all felt necessary but not righteous. There was no glory in this kind of warfare, only the cold pragmatism of survival. Davis broke the silence as they trudged through the ash-laden forest. "You think they'll come back with more?" Drake didn't look back. "They always do." Park frowned. "What happens when they send something worse than the Flame Legion? We can't keep fighting like this forever." Drake stopped, turning to face them. His expression was hard, but his voice held a quiet resolve. "We don't need to fight forever. We just need to fight long enough to make them realize we're not worth the cost." It was a sobering thought. Humanity wasn't trying to win the war in a conventional sense. They weren't trying to conquer the Dominion or destroy its empire. They were simply trying to endure, long enough to make the Dominion question whether Earth was worth the bloodshed. The war's echoes. The team reached the extraction point, a charred clearing where their dropship waited. The pilot gave them a grim nod as they climbed aboard, the whir of the engines filling the silence. As they lifted off, the battlefield below disappeared into the haze, leaving only memories of fire and blood. Drake sat in the corner of the ship, his rifle resting across his lap. He stared out the viewport, watching the devastated forest fade into the distance. Park slid into the seat next to him. "Do you think it'll work? Scaring them off?" Drake didn't answer right away. Instead, he reached into his pocket, pulling out a small, battered photograph. It showed a younger version of himself, smiling alongside a woman and a little girl. His family before the war. "It has to," he said finally, his voice barely above a whisper. "Because if it doesn't, we'll lose everything." Park glanced at the photo but didn't press further. She understood. They all had something to fight for, something to protect. And that was why they fought so fiercely, why they refused to give up even when the odds were stacked against them. A warning delivered. Days later, a Dominion scout ship arrived at the edge of the forest. The flames had long since died out, leaving only a blackened wasteland in their wake. The scout team disembarked, their movements cautious as they approached the clearing where the Flame Legion had made their stand. What they found sent shockwaves through the Dominion's ranks. The grim tableau left by Drake's team was a message, clear and unmistakable. The Flame Legion, once thought invincible, had been destroyed. Their general, Callus, had fallen. And humanity had left the wreckage as a warning. The Dominion's high command received the report with a mix of disbelief and fury. How could a species so primitive, so inexperienced in interstellar warfare, inflict such a devastating blow? The answer was simple. Humanity was willing to do whatever it took to survive. And as the Dominion deliberated their next move, one thing became clear. Earth was no ordinary world. Its people were no ordinary prey. They were survivors, fighters, and, if necessary, monsters. For the first time in their long history of conquest, the Dominion hesitated. And for humanity, that hesitation was the first step toward victory.